launching a tasty pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs, and we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
Welcome back to Legendary Foods Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today is Thursday, October 13th, 2022. And let's find out what's going on in the world of bodybuilding and fitness. By now, I'm sure you've probably heard that Michal Krizo won his IFBB Pro card at the Amateur Olympia in Italy last weekend. So there really isn't a need to do a full recap of what happened there. Instead, I want to take a different angle, because him winning that show was basically a formality. The real story isn't about whether he was good enough to win his pro card, it's whether or not what we saw on stage last weekend is good enough to win the Prague Pro in a few weeks, because that's been the allure of this whole thing from day one. Now, don't get me wrong, Michal absolutely deserved to win the IFBB Amateur Olympia. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. However, the question we should all be asking right now is whether or not that look is good enough to win on an IFBB Pro stage in a few weeks, because now we're talking about a completely different level of competition. The Prague Pro lineup is probably going to attract some big-time talent because it's one of the last Olympia qualifiers on the schedule. So it's definitely not going to be a walk in the park. And if he goes in there without making a few big adjustments, 2022 might not be the rocket ship ride to the top like some people were anticipating. I know that we've said this 1,000 times, but we're going to say it again because it's one of those things that's worth repeating. You are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with the most, which means that if you want to be great, then you better make damn sure you're surrounding yourself with greatness, because that's the fastest way for you to learn what it takes to be one of the best in your field. So with that in mind, when you see a guy like Urs Kalecinski making the rounds and training with guys like, well, Chris Bumstead and Nick Walker, what does that tell you about his desire to achieve greatness in our sport? When you can humble yourself and remove the ego from the equation, it's like the cheat code to unlocking your potential. Because then, all of a sudden, you realize how much you can learn from the people who already have been where you've been and are trying to go. You don't need to reinvent the wheel here. You just need to, well, rob and duplicate what works until you get where you're trying to go. Because when you do that, you're literally shaving years of mistakes off the process. Hey, here's a serious question. When is the last time your light day in the gym included ripping an 820-pound deadlift for a double? Well, don't even bother trying to answer that question. That was rhetorical, because every other bodybuilder on the planet not named Joe Mackey, well, for them the answer is never. Joe is a special breed in the sense that he's one of the few guys in the IFBB Pro League who can truly be called a power bodybuilder. And you could probably make the argument that when it comes to guys who fall into that power bodybuilding category, that his name belongs at the top of the list. This guy is one of the most unique talents in bodybuilding, and the scariest part is that his best days in the gym and on the stage are probably still ahead of him. Stay tuned. There are some people out there who think they're sharks, or maybe they think they want to be sharks, until the day they find themselves in deep water surrounded by apex predators. And that's the moment when they realize that they've made a huge, huge mistake, and that there's no turning back now. And for all intents and purposes, I think Missy Truscott is hoping and praying that people decide to dive into deep water 10 weeks from now, because that's where she feels the most comfortable. Based on some of the preliminary things that we've seen over the last few weeks from Missy, this will be the best version of Missy that we've seen in a long time, which is crazy when you consider the fact that she's been at or near the top of this division for the better part of the last 3 seasons. And as we've seen time and time again, when Missy is at her best, she smells blood in the water, and things don't always end up well for everyone else in the lineup. And that does it for yet another edition of Muscle in the Morning. I'm Dave Palumbo, reminding you to always be true to your passions, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.